Hi there, this is Solitary Ronan from Solitary Ronan Films, and welcome to part 2 of my celebration of Moviedrome, the wonderful BBC Two programme that meant so much to me and quite a lot of others in the UK in the late 80s and through the 90s. First, a little bit of housekeeping. I got a comment from a fellow YouTuber who's just kind of started. He's called Moviedrome Redux, and he is taking on the Moviedrome idea just by talking about certain films that might be interesting. So I'll leave a link to his channel. You can go over and have a look. He's just got an intro up and a video about a film that I really want to see getting a proper Blu-ray release, and that's Francesco Rossi's The Mattei Affair, or The Mattei Case. I have a DVD of it, but it's one of those DVDs that I feel the subtitles aren't up to par. You know, there's lots of dialogue where there doesn't seem to be subtitles for, but it looks like a really good film with, of course, Gian Maria Volonte, but unfortunately we don't really have a very good copy of it. Now, I don't remember The Mattei Case. It was on Moviedrome one of the later seasons, but again, as I said, you know, come 92 to 95 I was at university, so I didn't get a chance to see all of Moviedrome every single week. But yeah, go over to Moviedrome Redux and give them some support, because again, certainly I did enjoy the response to the part 1, because certainly for, as I said, a certain generation of people in the UK who are film fans, BBC Two on a Sunday night was a pretty special time, first with Alex Cox and then Mark Cousins. So I'm just going to do season 3 and season 4. If you didn't see part 1, you can watch part 1 first if you like. I'm just going to go through, because Moviedrome did have such an impact on my life and my film watching life, I just thought it would be fun to go through the schedule of films on Moviedrome and how many of them I still have, how many of them are eternal favourites. So season 3 in 1990, season 4 in 1991. Season 4 was the first season to have some double bills, which I remember some of them. But we'll just get started. I'll try not to talk too much. I'll try not to get emotional about memories of Moviedrome. But we'll start with an all-time favourite, which I remember watching in Moviedrome. I remember Alex Cox's introduction, and it's John Carpenter's Assault Precinct 13. Cox talked about how obviously this is a western essentially. It's a homage. It's got lines from Once Upon a Time in the West, which at the point of 1990 I'd never seen. But this is just so wonderful. I don't think I've actually seen the remake all the way through. You can tell me in the comments below whether the ice cream van scene, which is still jaw-dropping, Escape from Witch Mountain indeed, is in the remake. But I just thought even the idea of the remake is just rather silly. But of course this is a classic, and this is one of the few Carpenter films that doesn't have a 4K, but I'm sure they'll get around to it because they seem to be ticking off Carpenter 4Ks. Obviously Arrow announced In the Mouth of Madness. Now second was Brazil. My favourite Terry Gilliam. Ironically, this is the last Terry Gilliam in the Criterion to get a 4K, because apparently everybody was crying out for 4Ks of all these other ones that to me are inferior to Brazil. But Brazil is absolutely fantastic. I don't know whether this was the first time I'd seen it or whether I saw it in a video shop, if you remember what video shops are. And then another one, do I remember this in Moviedrome? Again, I'm not sure I remember it on Moviedrome. Mike Hodges' stunning debut, Get Carter, with Michael Caine. This is the BFI Blu-ray special edition, but they did do a 4K edition as well. Next is a film that I've never seen, Cinematique. The Vinegar Syndrome sister label has it. It's Going South from 1978 with Jack Nicholson, which is bizarre. I've never seen it, but I've never seen it. Next is one of my all-time favourites, and I think this was the first time that I saw it, was on Moviedrome. It's Dead of Night. Still arguably the best portmanteau film. The wraparound story is just wonderful because it literally is just a wraparound for eternity. Yes, the comic episode with the golfers is a bit naff and terribly misogynistic, but yeah, Dead of Night is just absolutely wonderful. Then a film I've just got on disc, you may have heard of it, The Terminator, and I do remember The Terminator on Moviedrome. Again, I think I'd seen it in video by then as well. And then next, a film that I've seen, do I remember it in Moviedrome? Possibly. It's The Honeymoon Killers. I don't have it in the collection. I should really have it at some point. But I think I remember Moviedrome having it. And then next, a film I do remember watching on Moviedrome, Robert Aldridge's Hosanna's Raid, with wonderful Burt Lancaster, one of his better older films, or older performances in a film. Yeah, randomly, you know, I talked about that Alex Cox, Nick Freeland-Jones BFI talk, and Robert Aldridge turned out to be the director with most films on Moviedrome, which is fairly random. Then next, a classic. Oops, sorry, I missed one out. But next, a classic, An American Werewolf in London. Again, I think I'd seen it in video by then. But yeah, all-time classic. The one that I skipped over, which I've never seen, but I remember Alex Cox's introduction, but maybe I wasn't interested in it, or maybe it was on too late, I don't know. The Loved One from 1965. I should really catch up with that. That should actually be a project as well. The films that were on Moviedrome that I've never seen, I should really tidy that up. So if I ever meet Alex Cox or Mark Cousins, I can say I've seen every film on Moviedrome. And then next, again, a film that you might not have heard of, Yojimbo. Again, Alex Cox in that interview talked about, you know, one of the things that he kind of regrets is there wasn't more foreign language films, or non-English language films, I should say. But obviously Yojimbo is an absolute classic. Do I remember Yojimbo in Moviedrome? I'm not actually sure. And then three more films that I don't actually have and I haven't actually seen. From 1978, Robert Altman's A Wedding. If you don't know, I'm not the biggest Robert Altman fan. I do love McCabe and Mrs. Miller, and The Long Goodbye, but a lot of his other ones, I think he is in the probably overrated list of directors. I do like Buffalo Bill and the Indians. And then next, from 1955, again another film that I really should have seen but I haven't, The Phoenix City Story, directed by Phil Carlson, who's one of those directors that made so many enjoyable noirs and things like that. But again, nobody kind of mentions and nobody talks about. And then from 1962, again I remember the intro to this on Moviedrome, Walk on the Wild Side, directed by Edward Dmytryk. I think starring Rod Steiger, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I've never seen that either, and I think that's on Arrow Blu-ray possibly. But the last three of season 3 from 1990 I definitely have seen, and I remember this on Moviedrome, and this was just jaw-droppingly good. It is The Great Silence, or when it was on Moviedrome it was The Big Silence, and I always grew up knowing it as The Big Silence. Sergio Corbucci's finest film, better than Django, a western in the snow, one of the greatest endings of all time. Jean-Louis Trintignant as a mute gunman, Klaus Kinski as a really nasty bounty hunter. It's just so good. In the Snow, a wonderful Morricone soundtrack, again one of the greatest endings of all time. Yeah, sensational, and fell in love with it the first time I saw it, and I'll always love it. And then next, again, I don't remember seeing this at the time on Moviedrome. I think I saw it later, unless I've just completely forgotten about it. But this is Damiano Damiani's A Bullet for the General, with Volonte Kinski again, and bizarrely Martina Beswick from Hammer fame. This is one of the more political spaghetti westerns. I've now, like, Damiani was like fairly high in my favourite Italian directors because of the Radiance films that have been released in the last couple of years of him, but this would be one of the earliest ones that I saw, but I don't remember watching on Moviedrome. And then finally, I believe this was the first time I saw this film was on Moviedrome. So they closed season 3 with Jarmusch's wonderful Down by Law, with Robert Benigni, John Lurie, and of course Tom Waits, one of my favourite musical artists of all time, and such a great actor as well. This is absolute prime Jarmusch. The fact that, well, I don't want to spoil it if people haven't seen it. About 3 kind of deadbeats who end up in prison together and kind of bitch at each other, and then they're not in prison, and they spend the time bitching to each other. Oh, but it's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. It's Jarmusch at his laconic best. So that was season 3. Another wonderful season, with some of my all-time favourite films. But let's go to season 4. Don't want to make this video too long. And a film that, again, I don't remember watching on Moviedrome, and that's The Beguiled, Clint Eastwood, directed by Don Siegel. And it's been so long, I think I've only seen it like once in my life, so I can't remember anything about it really, well, apart from obviously the setup. It was remade recently, I haven't seen that either. But then we go to a film that I do remember watching on Moviedrome, and it felt a little bit dirty, even though it's not actually that dirty. It's Vamp with Grace Jones, which is a lot of fun and almost like a classic Moviedrome film. And then next, arguably George Romero's favourite film that he made, completely atypical to what he's famous for, but Night Riders, with a young Ed Harris, about just a group of bikers that go about as knights. But again, plot wise, there's not that much going on, but it's just wonderful to spend 147 minutes in this world with these people. Tom Savini's in it as well. It's just a lovely film, but you can't really kind of describe it that much apart from it's lovely. Now, I do remember this on Moviedrome, even though I think I maybe watched it again on VHS after this, or maybe it was before this. But Something Wild by Jonathan Demme, of course starring John Sayles, who's a motorcycle cop for about 30 seconds in the film. For some reason he doesn't get top billing, I can't believe it. Melanie Griffith, Jeff Daniels and Ray Liotta playing a psychopath. Who would have known? Yeah, this is bright and breezy, but the other Something Wild in the Criterion Collection is much better. If you know, you know. And then again, I think it was Nick Freeland-Jones said this was kind of one of the classic Moviedrome films, and I think this was the first time I saw this film was on Moviedrome. It's Carnival of Souls from 1962. By Herc Harvey, the only film Herc Harvey made, which is quite hard to say. Prefigures Night of the Living Dead. Prefigures quite a lot of things. As at the back of this Criterion says, it was intended to have the look of a Bergman and the feel of a Cocteau. About a young woman who survives a car accident, and the world seems to be very strange, or stranger than usual. Again, total Moviedrome film, and that's the first time I saw it. Now we come up to the first double bill. Now the second film in this I have on disc, but I only saw it a few years ago as part of my Joseph Losey season that I did. But the first part of the double bill was Badlands, and this might have been the first time I saw Badlands, and then I just didn't stay up late enough to watch the second film in double bill. Again, very good, but I'm not as high on it as certain other people are. But it's still a very good film. Martin Sheen, Sissy Spacek, of course. Great performances. And the second film in the double bill was Joseph Losey's The Prowler with Van Heflin, which again I talked about in my Joseph Losey season if you want to go through the channel and dig that review up, which is a really nice little B film back when Losey was still working in America. Yeah, that's worth a look. Next, a film that I used to kind of like. I think Moviedrome was the first time I saw it, but I now love it. I did have it on Premium Collection, but then Criterion released a 4K, and that's Performance. Donald Cammell and Nick Rogue, with Mick Jagger, a tremendous performance, and Edward Fox. No, James Fox. I always get them mixed up. I never get Samantha Fox and James Fox mixed up, but I always get Edward Fox and James Fox mixed up. Yeah, Performance is just wonderful. Yeah, the middle bit could maybe be trimmed slightly, but it's an absolutely fantastic film. And then another fantastic film, I think I'd seen this in video before Moviedrome, but I could be wrong. One of my favourite walk-ins. This is At Close Range with Sean Penn. One of Sean Penn's best films. Also stars Chris Penn, and Crispin Glover, Mary Stuart Masterton. Remember when Mary Stuart Masterton was huge? This is the imprint, which has lots of lovely special features. It's a wonderful walk-in performance. That moustache alone is absolutely fantastic. He's absolutely terrifying. Based on a true story about some Pennsylvanian criminals headed by Walken, stealing farmland equipment. I was going to say farmland animals, but no, it was just equipment they were stealing. Next, embarrassingly, is another double bill, one of which I've still never seen, which is kind of crazy, and that's Ridley Scott's The Duelists. I still haven't seen The Duelists, which is bizarre. I know Imprint had a Blu-ray that went out of print like immediately. It was quite early on in the run. I still haven't seen The Duelists, with Harvey Keitel and Keith Carradine. I'm going to say Keith Carradine. Might get my Carradines mixed up as well. And then The second half was Cape Fear, the original one, which I've got on disc but not to hand. And again, I don't remember watching, well, obviously I didn't watch either of them in Moviedrome. Next is another film I don't remember seeing on Moviedrome because I don't think I've ever seen it, and that's Ken Russell's The Music Lovers. I should really get more Ken Russell. But the next film, obviously I have seen and adore. It's Michael Mann's Manhunter. If you watch Alex Cox's introduction, it doesn't sound as though he's a huge fan of Manhunter, but he should be. I mean, that's the great thing about Alex Cox. You know, we love him, but sometimes, you know, he didn't like films that we liked, and we liked films that he didn't like. You know, that's just life. You don't hold it against the man because he's Alex Cox. I think I'd seen this on VHS first, but then they showed the premium cut, the European video edition, better than the director's cut, certainly better than the theatrical cut. Avoid the theatrical cut like the plague, like a wasp plague. Yeah, this is seminal. The seminal Hannibal Lecter, the seminal Tooth Fairy, yeah, the seminal Will Graham. Everything's seminal. Shot by Dante Spinotti, that would do other Michael Mann stuff. People kind of watch this and go, oh, the soundtrack's dated. There's actually people think Red Dragon's a better film than Manhunter. I mean, my goodness. Next, it's a double bill, which is a bit odd because I don't remember the first film on Moviedrome, but I remember the second film on Moviedrome. But usually I would have watched both, but I have no recollection of Hell's Angels on Wheels from 1967. Maybe I went away and did something else, I don't know. But the second film is Coppola's Rumblefish, with an all-star cast. Matt Dillon, Mickey Rourke, Diane Lane, Dennis Hopper, Nicolas Cage, Chris Penn and Tom Waits again. I mean, you couldn't make a film like this anymore. And then it's Aldridge again, with Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. Again, I don't remember this one on Moviedrome, and I certainly don't remember the last two. Or do I? I don't think so. They finished season 4 in 1991 with a couple of fairly hardcore bangers. First it was Tarkovsky's Solaris. I think the first time I saw Solaris was on the BBC, but I can't remember it being Moviedrome. But again, maybe that's just my memory, defunct from old age. But obviously it was on Moviedrome, but I certainly don't remember it on Moviedrome. And then finally a film that just got a 4K, and deservedly so, arguably one of Criterion's best packaging jobs. Again, this might have been the first time I saw it was in Moviedrome, but it's Paul Schrader's Mishima. I mean, it is one of the greatest packaging jobs of all time. I'll have to do a favourite 40 packaging jobs. Yeah, this has got 4K written all over it, and it does have a 4K release. So that was the closer for season 4. I mean, when you're closing a season of Moviedrome with Solaris and then Mishima, you're putting a fairly big marker down as far as, you know, go follow that. So thanks very much for watching. This is a shorter video. Again, go to Moviedrome Redux, subscribe to his channel and support him. It'll be interesting to see how his project progresses. And please let me know if you remember any of these films being shown on Moviedrome, or when was the first time you saw some of these films. Again, in these 2 seasons, so many all-time classics for me. You know, Manhunter has been in my life since probably the late 80s. Obviously it didn't have a really cinema run. I can't remember when I saw it in VHS first. But I've loved that film for so long. Yojimbo, The Great Silence, just at close range. So many, as we saw in season 1 and 2, and we'll see in season 5 and 6 and part 3. So I hope you join me for part 3 as we go back down memory lane, when the BBC actually put on interesting programming. Yeah, those were the days. So thanks so much for watching. If you want to subscribe to my channel, if you haven't before, you could do that. You could give the video a like. I don't ever say that in videos, but there you go. Yeah, thanks for watching. Sorry, I just get emotionally disturbed when I talk about Moviedrome. Yeah, this is Solitary Ronin saying the only thing that I can say, and that's farewell.